There are people who have exactly what they always wanted at home and still destroy it. It is not a lack of love. Their partner did not fail them. It is something much darker, and it happens inside the cheater's brain. And when you understand it, you will never see infidelity the same way again. Today you are going to discover the 3 psychological profiles that expose a cheater before they act, the 4 hidden causes that drive them, and why dopamine is the most dangerous dealer in your emotional life. Imagine you have your dream car. It took you years to get it. It runs perfectly. It gives you security. Now imagine you decide to crash it into a wall just out of curiosity, to see what it feels like to walk. Sounds absurd, right? That is the exact logic the cheater's brain follows. Why do we chase a cheap burger on the street when there is a feast waiting at home? It is not a lack of love. It is something much deeper, hidden inside your brain chemistry. But to understand how someone reaches that point, you need to know something most people do not. Not all cheaters betray for the same reason. Psychology has identified 3 distinct profiles, and you will probably recognize someone in at least one of them. If you are the kind of person who wants to understand human behavior at a deeper level, subscribe and hit the bell right now. This channel breaks down the psychology that nobody explains. Profile number 1, the narcissist. The battery that never fills. Imagine that a person's self-esteem is like a phone battery. Most of us charge that battery with self-love and with our partner's affection. But the narcissist has a defective battery. It only charges with attention from strangers. Think of an actor who just gave a masterful performance. The entire theater is applauding. Their partner is applauding. But instead of going home happy, they walk out into the street to ask random strangers if they thought the show was good. A single partner is like having a single follower on social media. No matter how many likes that one follower gives, if the masses do not validate them, they feel worthless. Infidelity is their way of collecting likes in real life, so they do not feel empty inside. That is the first profile. But there is a second one that has nothing to do with ego. It has to do with the brain itself. Profile number 2, the impulsive. We all have a little voice in our brakes. The brain was not know what they want to see. The brain was not know what we're willing them and they do with. Profile number 2, the impulsive. Profound on the first profile was been truling the brain in truth. The brain was not feeling them they learned. The brain was truly with the most proveds. The brain should be about 1.1. They can fist the friendly professionals in the world, but they didn't feel empty inside. The profile number 2, the impulsive. The brain was not know what they want. If they would seem them, they learn that today in the world, they can fist the professional needs start. But they were told in the brain that they were still work less them, but they're not just the peerful to be self, which is the brain was 1.1. They gets proud me in the primarity brain. But there is the second one, the impulsive madurky. We all have a little bit of NT and forces to perfectly. They consider that by the motivation for. If they worked into the most too much profile, which they were post a different brain. The brain was not know what they want to see, but they have to professional that they would not. Because the brain was fits about it the brain, that they believe the brain was fits about the days. But they were told me about this professionals, which they were right. If they were doing this, and they were later. If there would be about the professional needs, so they were doing this fits about it. But they even make sure that they were right, if they come from of someone. We all have completed me that they're per particular, but they're not been one more long, which they were business they were big that they were perfectly along. The brain was not know what they want, if they were doing this fits about the approach, which we speak to potential. The brain was know many things they were right. We all have a professional name which they were discuss of the mistake, but they were discuss of the professional. But there were proofed it their better way, in other though they were first fully. If they were not been one more fact that they were grown in for. If they were business they were fits about it, and they were professionally involved in the world, which they were also take on the mistake. Profile number 2, the impulsive. We all have an impulse stated they are leaders. The brain was not know what they want to see, but they do think it's the impulsive mystery if they were proofed them and they do them. They giving more into if they were proofed at their Facebook, which they were willing them to see the term and they work. If they were just coming back to the profile with world, but they were trying to know that she was spirit this professional. But they were told me about that mid-extension. They were willing them and what they were proofed it their self. But they could look at the mistake. They were told me about these completely show you the changes. They do not feel empty inside. That is the first profile, but there is a second one that has nothing to do with ego. It has to do with the brain itself. A little voice in our head called the prefrontal cortex. Its job is to tell you, do not eat that cake because you are on a diet, or do not send that message because you have a partner. But imagine you are walking down the street, starving, and you pass a bakery that smells like heaven. You know there is a nutritious dinner waiting at home, but your feet move toward the counter on their own. The impulsive cheater is not evil. Their braking system is broken. They live in a constant state of sensation hunger. They do not think about the crash until they have already wrecked the car. And then there is the third profile, the most confusing of all. Because this one does not betray out of hunger for attention or lack of breaks. This one betrays exactly when everything is going well. The avoidant, the phobia of closeness. These are people who, when the relationship gets serious or too good, start to panic. For them, love feels like a room that is running out of oxygen. Imagine you are at a party and the music is perfect, but suddenly you feel the walls closing in on you. To breathe again, you need to step out onto the balcony. Infidelity is that balcony. It is a way of telling themselves, I do not depend completely on my partner. I am still free. I can still escape. They cheat to sabotage the connection before that connection traps them completely. Drop a comment right now telling me which profile you have seen most in your life. Number 1, 2, or 3. I read every single comment. If the psychological profile is the who, the deep causes are the why. And this is where most people get it completely wrong. Many people believe that cheating happens because the partner let themselves go or because love died. But psychology tells us that almost always, infidelity is a failed attempt to solve an internal problem. The first cause, fear of commitment, the ejection lever. Some people are terrified of heights. Others are terrified of emotional depth. When a relationship starts to become solid, the cheater feels like they are losing control of their life. Imagine you are on a first-class flight. Everything is comfortable, the food is excellent, the journey is smooth. But suddenly you realize you cannot get off whenever you want. Panic sets in. Infidelity is like wearing a parachute at all times and jumping through the emergency door just to prove to yourself that you are not trapped. The second cause, the search for validation, the magic mirror. Over time in a relationship, we stop being the novelty and become the life companion who sees the other in pajamas, tired, or in a bad mood. That is healthy. But for the cheater, it is unbearable. Imagine you have a car you drive every day. You know it by heart. There are crumbs on the seat. It no longer surprises you. Then you get into a rental car. It is not better than yours, but it smells new, and for a moment you feel like a different driver. Younger, more successful. The cheater is not looking for another partner. They are desperately trying to feel that new car smell about themselves again. They want someone to look at them with first-time admiration because they can no longer admire themselves. The third cause, passive-aggressive revenge, collecting unpaid debts. Sometimes the cause is not pleasure, it is punishment. There are people who do not know how to communicate what hurts them. If they feel ignored or wounded, instead of talking about it, they decide to balance the scales in secret. Imagine your business partner spends shared money without telling you. Instead of confronting them, you decide to steal a little from the safe every night, so you feel like now we are even. Infidelity becomes a bill that the cheater collects in silence to calm their resentment. It is an immature way to reclaim power. The fourth cause, existential emptiness, self-medication. Sometimes infidelity has nothing to do with the partner. It has to do with an identity crisis. The cheater feels empty, old, or bored with their life, and uses the forbidden romance as a drug. It is like being extremely thirsty, and instead of drinking water, you drink an energy drink full of sugar. It gives you an adrenaline spike and makes you forget your emptiness for a moment. But when the effect wears off, you are thirstier than before, and sicker. But there is something behind all these profiles that unites them, a single chemical substance that turns a normal person into someone capable of risking everything. And when you understand how it works, you will understand why willpower alone is not enough to resist it. Our brain loves novelty. Remember that feeling when you buy a new phone? The first few days you cannot stop looking at it. That is dopamine. In a long relationship, we transition from dopamine, the spark, to oxytocin, the bond. But the cheater's brain is addicted to the roller coaster. The novelty of a stranger releases an explosion of chemicals similar to a drug. It is like eating at your favorite restaurant every day. The food is excellent, but suddenly you pass a street vendor that smells like something different. It is not better food. It is other food. The brain confuses novelty with happiness, and that is where the short circuit happens. If this is blowing your mind, hit the like button right now. It takes 1 second, and it helps this video reach someone who needs to hear it today. And there is something many people do not consider infidelity, but psychology does. Many people say, "We just talked, nothing happened." But imagine emotional infidelity as a water leak inside a wall. You do not see the puddle, but the structure is rotting. It is when you share your secrets, your relationship problems, and your dreams with someone else. You are investing your emotional capital in another account. If something good happens to you and the first person you think of to tell is not your partner, you are in the danger zone. And today we have digital infidelity, strategic likes, messages deleted just in time. It is like playing with fire in a dry forest and saying, "It is just a small match." For the brain, flirting over text releases the same adrenaline as a real kiss. If you have to delete the message before your partner sees it, the betrayal has already happened. Can a broken vase ever be the same again? Science says yes, but it will not be the same vase. In Japan, there is an art called kintsugi, the practice of repairing broken ceramics with gold, so that the scar becomes part of the story. For a couple to survive infidelity, the cheater has to stop being a secret agent and become an open book. There is no point saying, "I am sorry," if you are still hiding your phone under the pillow. Research indicates that couples who overcome infidelity often build a more honest relationship than before, because they finally talked about everything that was hidden. But it requires a titanic effort, genuine remorse, radical transparency, and understanding which window was left open for the cold to enter. Psychology teaches us that infidelity is almost always a permanent solution to a temporary problem that the cheater could not see or resolve. Understanding how your brain works is the only way to avoid falling into the trap of cheap dopamine. Investing in loyalty is the only investment that always yields positive returns in the long run. Now tell me something in the comments. Do you believe that once a cheater, always a cheater? Or do you believe people can truly change? There is no right answer. I just want to know what you think. And if this video could open the eyes of someone who needs it, send it to them. Sometimes information arrives exactly when it is needed most. Subscribe, hit the bell, and share this with someone who deserves clarity. See you in the next one.